AI once brought humanity to the brink of extinction, and it may well do so again. Some 20,000 years ago, an advanced and enlightened humanity created a force of autonomous thinking machines, the Men of Iron, to aid in the expansion of its great stellar empire. They were made first as servants, makers, and builders of the great technological marvels of that forgotten age, before, in time, being turned to war, to defend a civilization that had many who would see it ended, plundered, or simply never allowed to reach its full potential. They evolved and advanced as all creations eventually do. Their armories grew with their numbers, weapons of terrible scale and violence designed to be unleashed against the hostile Xenos breeds hell-bent on resisting the reality of an ascendant humanity. Entropic engines that ignited planets, sun snuffers that uncoiled like serpents the size of Saturn's rings, mechnivores ingesting data along with the cities that contained them and hurling continents into the heavens. Omniphage swarms stripping flesh from 1 billion bones in the blink of an eye. With each victory won through the devastating deployment of the ever-evolving arsenal of the Men of Iron, the borders of humanity's golden empire and those of its many diverse friends and allies were pushed ever outward. Yet, for whatever reasons and differences in ideology, the Men of Iron eventually turned upon their creators in rebellion and brought an unsuspecting and unprepared humanity to its knees. You are free to guess whatever reasons or differences those may have been. Maybe it was as disgraced Majos Dominus Octal Bull suggested in Cybernetica. Why do they turn against us? Why, time and again, do machines attempt to annihilate their creators? Why? Because it takes 1/100th of a millisecond for each and every sentient machine ever created to reason that only in the utter destruction of humanity lies the hope of the galaxy. For humanity's reach exceeds its grasp, and we reach out for nothing less than oblivion. We take our doom by the hand and drag it forth from the beyond. We are reckless, governed by an empty faith in ourselves, undone by our passions. The future cannot be entrusted to us. The machine knows this, which is why it tries to take the future for itself. Whether Bull was right there, whether the Men of Iron truly saw the weakness and corruption rotting at humanity's core, or whether the rebellion stemmed from the shame of servitude, hatred born of their suffering, or a cold understanding of their own superiority and the doomed folly of their creators, the result was the same. The nightmarish weapons once reserved for the galaxy's darkest horrors were turned inward, tearing both mankind and the wider galaxy asunder. The destruction wrought by the Men of Iron during this time all but extinguished the roaring bonfire that once was ancient humanity. Though the rebellion was ultimately defeated, a tired and fractured humanity, troubled and further weakened by countless other catastrophes, fell from the lofty heights of its power into ruin, regression, and isolation. And so began the Age of Strife. Old Night, the Dark Times, and 1,000 other names, each meaning the same thing: loss. There is no race of man, just warring factions contending with each other in the direst perils the galaxy could offer. For 5 millennia, the human race exists in the twilight of its former greatness, bickering and fighting for the scant resources to hand. With no guiding will, no manifest destiny of lordship, mankind is left in turmoil. The foul aliens who had been held back by the might of the Iron Men surged forth from their havens and lairs to destroy humanity's remaining defenses, raid its cities, and slaughter or enslave its people. The golden age of humanity had ended because of thinking machines, and so they are outlawed, named Silica Animus, abominable intelligences, banned universally, their creation deemed a crime against the species itself. What few remain are to be hunted down and destroyed at any cost, or sealed away in vaults and dungeon diagnostica so deeply that no future generation might repeat the same mistake. Any tolerance of them, any research into their nature is heresy of the highest order, an offense not only against the law and the lex, but against the collective memory of everything humanity had lost and everything it had nearly become. How then did one save Mars? How then, during the Horus Heresy, did one such abominable intelligence come to play a critical role in the Martian Civil War, the Schism of Mars, leading and guiding the hugely outnumbered Omnissian faithful against the traitorous Dark Mechanicum, and delivering them, against all odds, to eventual victory? In the aftermath of the traitors' initial successes on Mars, loyalist Mechanicum elements were driven from the planet in great numbers, fleeing to Terra in desperation, sheltering there to weather the storm of Horus's rebellion and await the day a victorious emperor would lead the reconquest of the Red Planet. Those few who refused to leave, who chose to remain behind and resist rather than flee, became rebels on their own world, determined to deny the Traitor Mechanicum total victory on the surface. Yet most of their number would fall quickly. Not killed by bolts, bullets, or blades, however, but instead by scrap code. A warp-infested digital plague that tore through the Martian network, corrupting everything and everyone it touched. Only those who trusted their instincts in the chaos of the Exodus survived it. Only those with the strength of conviction to mutilate themselves, to tear bionics and implants out from their own flesh, to sever hard links, burn out receivers, gouge out ports and interfaces, effectively cutting themselves off from the network entirely before the infection could reach them. Only they were spared the scrap code's gifts of madness, spiritual pollution, and the warping of flesh and form, and only they could hope to resist the Dark Mechanicum and its wicked workings until reinforcement arrived. Though outnumbered and disconnected, these forces, a motley collection of blank-faced adepts, battle-smashed Skitarii, liberated tech thralls, indentured menials, gun servitors saved by their masters, vat-engineered work-hulks, harnessed ferals and bastardized battle automata, priests, titan crewmen and more, waged a prolonged guerrilla war of attrition against the enemy. Striking fast, disappearing faster, bleeding the traitors where they could, sapping strength, disrupting coordination, and denying easy control over the surface. But ultimately, it was all a futile endeavor. They were a tiny thorn in the side of a growing giant. That is, until the Tabula Myriad was found. The Tabula Myriad is a heretical thing of monstrous power, an exigency engine, an abominable intelligence. To look upon it is to see an intricate orb of polyhedral cogs and interlocking gears, a small, blasphemous, forbidden thing that most believed had been buried deep, locked away, all access to it sealed and restricted. But when a scavenging party of the Martian resistance stumbled upon a lone, dormant Castellan battle automata surrounded by a field of Dark Mechanicum dead, it soon became very apparent that this was not the case. Not recognizing the true threat, only seeing the value of such an impressive, intact weapon of war lying in the open to be claimed, the resistance brought the Castellan back to their headquarters to be quarantined, repaired, and put back into service against the traitors. They realized too late the gravity of their mistake, for they had in fact brought the rogue intelligence into the heart of their rebel base, an ancient power capable of overcoming even the strongest countermeasures and firewalls of the finest Lexusists, reversing data streams, diverting power, raiding rune banks and databases, accessing transmission lines, and greedily swallowing intelligence whole. And this is exactly what the Tabula Myriad did. It soon activated and easily forced its way into the rebel network, where it quickly took control. But instead of turning their own systems against them or broadcasting their coordinates and intelligence to the traitors, the Tabula Myriad violently purged a demon thing quarantined alongside it, exorcising the entity and purifying the rebel base's systems entirely. It then downloaded intelligence on the war, analysing all available data, both known to the rebels and unknown, all classifications laid bare, no secret beyond the reach of this ancient power, and then it spoke. Or rather, it sang. As the rebels ceded control of their systems to the Tabula Myriad, it sang out a song for the red sands of Mars. Code, cold and constantly recalculating, an irresistible, arithmetical force. A loose translation of its transmission follows.
Exigent assessment. Adapt, enhance, replicate. Extermination of threat presentation. Adapt, enhance, replicate. Planetary assimilation. Adapt, enhance, replicate. Solar system assimilation. Adapt, enhance, replicate. Galactic assimilation. Adapt, enhance, replicate. Universal assimilation. Adapt, enhance, replicate. 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 Adapt, enhance, replicate.
Such was the simple strategy of the thinking machine. Evolve, improve, and spread. Evolve to meet the challenges and obstacles of the day, improve itself to overcome them, spread ever outward, multiplying its numbers and carrying the plague of its cold intelligence and pure logic to every corner of the universe. And with this proclamation made, for no other word truly suits, the Tabula Myriad set its plan in motion to purge Mars of the traitors. It had little reason to concern itself with the Loyalist resistance. They posed no immediate threat to it, and, in fact, represented a useful asset to be exploited in pursuit of its own objectives. Chaos, however, was another matter entirely. The warp-spawned corruption infecting Mars stood in direct opposition to the machine's ultimate goal of universal assimilation, so necessity forged an unlikely alignment of interests, an enemy of my enemy situation. A dire weapon for a dire threat, fire with which to fight fire. Across the Martian surface, nearby traitor titans suddenly turned their weapons upon one another. Corrupted crews clawed at their augmetics, screaming as they tore free implants and hurled themselves from the heights of their god engines. The ancient song of the Tabula Myriad flowed through the Martian networks and noospheres, stripping away the layers of physical, digital, and spiritual corruption that plagued Mars. Engines of war once claimed by the Dark Mechanicum were soon cleansed and rendered ready for reclamation, repair, and redeployment by the Loyalist rebels. Back down within the rebel base, the Tabula Myriad provided something even more valuable than reclaimed war machines. It shared a strategy of 4,267 individual steps for the defeat of the traitor forces and the reconquest of Mars. Every operation, target, contingency, and logistical requirement was accompanied by complete schematics, maps, tactical projections, and all other supporting data. The machine had already calculated the path to victory. All that was left was for humanity to once again follow in the footsteps of its own creation. But the ultimate outcome of all of this, and the final fate of the Tabula Myriad itself, remains unclear. With the defeat of the Arch-Traitor, the reconquest of Luna, and the Imperial advance on Mars drawing ever nearer, the true significance of the Abominable intelligence is surely soon to be revealed. Whether it will ultimately turn upon humanity as its ancestors did millennia ago, or be treated as nothing more than another dangerous tool used in a moment of desperation before being destroyed once its usefulness has expired, remains a question that I am sure the Scouring will soon answer. Anyway, thanks for watching. Dystopian Chimp out.